Hey Lori.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
So why don't you, in your own words, introduce yourself?
I help people to create their best and blessed life. And I do that by helping people identify what it is that God's called them to do, what is their divine purpose, and then create a life around that.
What forms our mindset in I guess what contributes to our mindset?
Well, really our mindset is made up of beliefs, what we believe. Your mindset is a framework or a network of thoughts. And so really those thoughts are made up of your beliefs. And your belief system is really kind of a collection of your life. It's a snapshot of your life. It's your values. If you are a person of faith, it's your experiences, it's your joys, it's your pains, the traumas that you've gone through in life. All of those things create this integral, interwoven network,
Mm,
and that creates the frame for your mindset.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, you talked about experiences. So our upbringing obviously is a big factor in our mindset and kind of how we were raised and what
Yeah.
we were exposed to,
Yeah. Yeah.
positive and
Trauma.
negative.
Trauma is a big thing. Yeah. Trauma is a really big thing. Because a person could have, and mindsets can change too, because a person can start off in life fine and experience a traumatic event like 9/11, or
Mm,
whatever, and then their mindset changes. Like
shifts.
they might become helpless. They may have a helpless mindset
Mm,
where they're saying to themselves, you know what, I have no control over anything, and you know, everything in my life is going to just happen to me regardless. And so why bother? Why should I
mm,
even try? And that becomes a mindset. You lose, your ability to make decisions, and you don't really have any motivation or confidence because in your mind it's not going to
it's not
matter
gonna matter.
because you've become helpless. You've adopted a helpless mindset.
Wow. Okay. So you named that. Are there maybe a few other mindsets that we can maybe touch on? And I'll share. Recently, I discovered in retrospect that my inclination is a scarcity mindset. And
Okay.
that kind of actually surprised me.
Mm,
So let's talk about that one, and then let's talk about
yeah,
maybe some other ones.
that's a good one. And I actually shared on that one about a year ago. I was I was like around Black Friday,
Mm.
and I don't like Black Friday.
That's a perfect
So
example of people with a
I don't,
scarcity mindset and yeah,
exactly,
trampling
and
over
that
people at
triggered.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly, and that's what triggered the whole broadcast, was that I was so disturbed by how people were dishonoring each other
Mm, mm,
for a television.
mm,
I'm like, this is wrong. Why are we thinking this way? And it's really a scarcity mindset. And one of my spiritual teachers used to say all the time, if competition is bred in the mindset or the concept that there's not enough to go around, that there's only one winner.
mm.
And in some things in life that is appropriate. If you're competing in the Olympics,
Right.
yes, that's appropriate. But when you're stepping on top of people, when you're shoving people, when
Mm,
you're dishonoring people and yourself for something that's not limited, that's a scarcity mindset.
mm,
It speaks to what you believe in your heart. And so I just remembered sharing about how we have to tell ourselves that there's always going to be more, and there's always going to be other opportunities, and we don't have to dishonor anyone or hurt anyone to get what we need. If we think scarcity, then we're going to feel that pressure
mm.
to dishonor, because we think, if I don't get this, if there won't be any other opportunities to
Yes.
get it. And
Yeah.
so that kind of prompted that, and that mindset it could come from just growing up. Sometimes people have grown up impoverished,
Right.
and so where they had to fight for every
Everything.
morsel of food
Yeah.
that they ate. And so they grew up in life thinking, I've got to fight for everything,
Right.
and not realizing that you can create a world and a life where you can have what you need when you need it.
Yes.
And because and that just requires just relearning how to think again.
Yes. And which, and we'll in a minute want to talk about, like, okay, so is it possible to to make that shift? Um,
Yeah.
and so poverty, we just talked about scarcity. Is poverty mindset exactly the same, or is that more of an adjacent um, mindset, or are they synonymous?
I think one produces the other.
Okay.
I think that poverty is probably more of the mindset, and the scarcity might be the result of having an impoverished mindset.
Mm, okay.
Because people think about poverty, they think about money, but you can be impoverished in many, many ways,
Ways.
because it's a frame. It's how you think about things. It's how you look at the world around you. It's how you see yourself, how you see others, and how you see the world around you. And so that produces scarcity.
Okay.
This poverty mindset is an internal struggle,
Mm,
and it can't be fixed with a dollar bill or a $20 bill or $1 million. It's an internal issue.
internal.
It's how you frame. It's the way you frame your world, you know. And the fact that you would believe that you can't be well off
Mm,
because your friends aren't, so you've gotta dummy it down for the sake of your friends. That's an
great
impoverished
friends.
mindset.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you hear a lot of stories of people who they come into the wealth, but they still live, they still drive, they still like maintain that
Yeah.
because and there's nothing wrong with that if that's a choice, but it's more of like, I because my friends are here, I
Hmm.
can't permit myself to, to break out of that, or
Yeah. And
um,
that opens up another door
yeah.
to, how do you create a circle of friends that will support your growth even if they're not growing in that direction. So that
Mm,
also opens up another conversation. How do you do that?
okay,
How
so
do
how
you
do you do
how do you
that?
create that? I can't
What's
give
the
away all my
answer?
secrets. I can't give away all my secrets. I actually talk about that specifically in one of my teachings, my coaching teachings, a 6-part coaching teaching called Breakout, where I talk about how to assess your friend circle, your inner circle,
Mm,
and making sure that not getting rid of people or cutting people off. Obviously, if you need to do that, you have to do that, but that's not always the answer. Sometimes
sure.
it's just shuffling people around so that they still can fit in your life.
Still honoring your existing relationships, but recognizing that you have to surround yourself with that mindset.
Exactly. And I always tell people, if you are the smartest person, if you're always the smartest person in the room, then you need to get into
New
another room.
friends, yes, that's so
Yeah,
good.
because you're not growing.
And some people want to
You're
be
not
the
growing.
smartest person in the room, but yeah, yeah, you're not growing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Totally agree with
Yeah.
that. All right, so we talked about poverty mindset, scarcity mindset. Let's talk about the flip side of the scarcity, which you kind of talked about it, but didn't name it. So I'm going to name it abundance mindset.
Okay.
So let's
Okay.
talk about that and how that kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
can help us.
Oh, absolutely. I think that with the abundance mindset, it's a mindset of a person that understands that resources have not left the planet.
Mm, so
They've
good.
just switched and changed
Yeah.
position. And so a person with an abundance mindset is a solution oriented person, and they're a person that knows how to gauge the times and the seasons that they're in
Mm,
so that they can always be in position to either have what they need or get access to what they need.
mm,
And I teach that also in the coaching series as well, is how do you position, how do you become one that is positioned to have what they need, not just money but other resources
resources.
when
Yeah.
you need them.
Yeah. And I notice sometimes that, so us women, sometimes, you know, we see another woman doing something well, and our
Yeah.
default is something negative, as opposed to that's awesome, and their success doesn't take away from my chances of success. Their, you know, whatever just happened to them that's positive, that's awesome. I'm going to celebrate that, and
Yeah.
has nothing to do with you know,
Yeah.
mine, except maybe, you know, I'm going to go align myself with her even more. So yeah, I think abundance, there is an abundance of resources there, you know. And our God is the God of abundance, so for
Absolutely.
sure. Yeah.
And even as you were talking, it just came to me that sometimes we have to separate ourselves from people who make it a competition. Because I have found
Yes.
in my profession, as a minister as well as a life strategist, that sometimes you come across individuals in our profession that are insecure, and they make it a competition. And so if you're not careful, you'll get pulled into that
Into that.
whole kind of craziness. And you're
Yeah,
like, wait a minute, why am I acting like this?
that's
You know, my
interesting.
biggest competition is me. What's
Yeah,
going on here? So we have to be careful of that too.
yeah. So I want to also talk about limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Is that synonymous with mindset? Is that a part of it?
You speak out of what you believe.
Okay.
So it starts in the heart. And so if you think about it this way, limiting beliefs are really like the tree, and the fruit is what we get from that. It's what we see that indicates what type of tree it is. So for example, if I tell you that you're looking at an apple tree and you see oranges, you're going to correct me. You're going to say, no, I think this is an orange tree because there are oranges exhibiting from this tree. Limiting beliefs come from what you produce. You're identified by what you see and what's produced. And
Okay.
so if a person has a mind, go back to the helpless example, if a person has a mindset that they are helpless, like why bother, nothing in life is ever going to change,
That's
then you'll know just by that statement or that fruit of that statement that the thought process behind it is someone who has no motivation, someone who doesn't have any drive, someone who is depressed, someone who has no ability to see the good side,
saying.
or someone who actually exasperates a situation and makes it more than what it is. And so those are your limiting beliefs that make up the mindset and that produce the fruit that we see, which are the actions and your
Yes.
decisions and your interactions with other people.
Okay. This week in our group, I posed a question that I thought was very telling, and it exposed some of our limiting beliefs. So I asked a question about what would your life look like if your income doubled? But a part of that, I said, do you think it's possible? And when people answered that, it really opened up some telling things. You know, for some people, it was, for a lot of people, it was like, no, that's not possible. Or it's
Yeah.
possible, but here are 25 negative things that are going to come along with it.
Right.
And so you know, your income
And
doubling.
those, yeah, and Alea, those are the limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
The way they responded showed you or whomever was reading it the beliefs that are limiting them from believing that they actually can do it. It's
Yes.
restricting thought process.
So let's just stick with that example. So if I
Mm-hmm.
tell myself, or you know, Alaya, there's no way that my income can double. Will my income ever double?
No, it won't. No, it won't because your body is listening to what you're saying, okay? And so when you say no, never, it can't, I can't, your body shuts down.
Another way that, you know, I asked a poll about, I did a poll about what do you think is holding you back, and
That's a
that
good one.
also, you know, so for some people, it's my education's holding me back, or
Mm-hmm.
my income, or even my spouse.
Mm.
And some of those are some real, depending on the situation, there is some reality in some of those
Yeah.
answers. But if
Yeah.
we perceive
Yeah. Yeah.
something to be the thing that's holding us back, then there's no way that we could move forward as long as we perceive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love what you just said. Some of it is reality. It's not like that they're making this up.
Right.
You know, it is their current condition, it's their current state. And so I like to challenge people and say, okay, well then what do you plan to do about it?
Right.
Because I'll tell you a quick story.
Sure.
Hopefully it'll be quick. uh, hopefully. Anyways, it was about my limiting beliefs that I didn't even know I had.
Mm.
So I came across a fellow life coach. This was over a decade ago. And she and we had connected and we were talking. We only had one conversation. And so she started asking me some questions. And I guess the way I was answering, kind of like similar to what you did on your group today, this week, revealed to her that I had some limiting beliefs
Mm.
that I didn't even know that I was aware of.
Mm.
And I know it was a completely divine appointment because we only had one conversation. We've never talked since. And she said to me, "You're not ready for what God wants to do in your life.
Oh,
You
wow.
think you're ready, but you're not ready." And she said, "And your husband's not ready and your
Mm.
family's not ready."
Oh,
So
wow.
I was completely offended. Okay. I was like, how dare you? Well, I've never, completely offended. But it shook me to my core
Core.
because I realized that I could say all day long that I'm something, but if I'm not congruent with it internally, then my speech will betray me and I'll
Yes.
never have what I keep saying that I'm ready for. So I had to really take a step back and look at what am I saying and what am I exhibiting? And do the two make sense? Do they match? Do they line up? And so that was a kind of a one of those moments where I was like, wow, okay, so I don't really believe
Yeah.
what I think I believe.
Yeah. Wow. That's a perfect example. Yeah, and I said it earlier, but when I was working through the debt, or before I started working through the debt, the things I kept telling myself was, "There's no possible way to get out of the debt. There's no way I'm going to have this debt forever. There's just no way."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's the message I was sending myself for years. And so
Mm-hmm.
just like you said, my body proved me right. Everything proved me right.
Yeah,
And so I stayed in that mess because that's what I was telling
yeah.
myself. And then
And you self-sabotage.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's so good. We don't recognize it. I mean, I guess that's why it's called self-sabotage. But we don't realize it when we're in the middle of it, because we self-justify
Yeah,
everything. There's always a reason
yeah,
that our, behavior is what it is, or you
yeah.
know, but yeah, the minute I started changing what I was saying to
Mm,
myself, you mentioned
yeah,
creativity. If you believe that your income can double, or you believe that you can change your career, or you believe that you can improve your relationship, whatever it is, because it's obviously not just about money. But if you start believing and you start telling yourself it's possible,
yeah,
you're going to brainstorm, you're going to find
yeah,
ways, you're going
yeah,
to, okay, well, wait a minute, this might work, let me try this. Okay, that did or didn't work, let me try this.
yeah.
And so, yeah, so powerful.
It takes that moment when you become self-aware, and I think that that's the key of breaking out of those limiting beliefs and changing your mindset is seeing yourself properly. And unless you're really trained, it's hard to see yourself properly. You
Yes.
kind of need that breakthrough moment when someone challenges you.
Mm,
Sometimes it can be offensive,
yes.
and sometimes it could be a friendly, constructive feedback. I know, I remember, I'll tell you another quick story. Um, I remember coming out of a situation, a painful situation, where I had built some walls to kind of keep myself from getting hurt. And I found myself in a different environment. I found myself in a very loving environment, but I still had those walls up.
Mm.
Didn't know it though. So one day I'm walking down the hallway, and this gentleman, a friend of mine, is walking towards me. I look him in the eyes, turn my head, and keep walking. And he was like, "Excuse me." He said, "Excuse me. You know you saw me." And I was like, because I
Yeah.
did. He said, "You looked me right in the face." He's like, "Why did you do that?" And
Wow.
I must have turned every shade of red
You
in the
called.
Crayola crayon box. And I was just like, "I don't know."
No.
I said to him, "I'm sorry, I don't know." But that was my breakthrough moment.
Mm.
And it made me go back home and say, why did I do that?
Yeah.
And then God began, just through prayer and studying and talking to people, my mentors, I began to realize that I had been rejected so much in the other environment that I had trained myself to
Mm.
avoid rejection. So
Mm.
in other words, the way to avoid a rejection was to
Just
be the
be
first
the
one to
first.
reject.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Wow.
that was my wall. And I had to realize, okay, you're no longer in that environment anymore. People love you, they embrace you, they accept you. You need to let that wall down, because that's how you're going to get healed of that thing. But
Wow.
it took him calling me out. And I to this day, we laugh about it. He's like, "Yeah, I wasn't going to let you get by with it."
Thank God for the people that
Yeah,
do that, challenge us, open,
yeah,
our eyes to our blind spots.
yeah,
So you just said, and that story was a part of it, about breaking through. So,
yeah.
and then, we'll kind of end with this. I just want to give some people some practical, actionable steps. So if I recognize I have a scarcity mindset, or I have a poverty mindset, or whatever, I have limiting beliefs, what are some things to break free, move forward to a
Well,
positive mindset?
again, there's power in a made up mind. You
Mm-hmm.
really have to decide in yourself that you're going to be different. Your life is going to be different, because once you decide that, and once you speak that verbally, again, like I said, your body is listening, it's going to respond in kind.
Yeah.
And then the next step is to find people that are doing what you want to do or aspire to do, and be around them and give
Yes.
them permission to speak into your life, because there's going to be a lot of error that needs to be corrected,
Sure.
and it's a process and it takes time. And so you need to allow these individuals, trusted individuals, to speak into that
Mm.
and say, "No, that's off, or that's an error, and here's why." And you have to be open to
Open to that.
receiving that.
Yeah.
And then you have to start celebrating your small
Mm.
successes. So
That's
every
good.
time you have a breakthrough, or every time you have a progressive moment
Yeah.
where you're moving forward, stop and
Stop and
celebrate. Say,
celebrate it.
"Wow, you know what? I've changed." A
Yes.
month ago, the Lori a month ago would have never responded that way, but I
Mm.
can see the progress. And so that positive reinforcement will then help you to want to do more. It releases
Absolutely.
dopamine, and it releases
Mm.
those feel good hormones that then create you that energy for you to want to continue doing it, because you got the result that you were hoping that you would get. But I
Yeah.
would say those are the first places to start.
Okay.
Is just, it's like peeling back an onion. It's going to take time, because these negative mindsets are strongholds.
Mm.
And so the definition of a stronghold is a fortress.
Mm.
And if you think about the medieval times, a fortress is built to keep people out
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
large part, to keep the
Protection. Yeah.
residents safe.
Yeah.
Exactly. But so you have to pull it down brick by brick.
Yeah.
And so that first jolt was that first breakthrough moment. Now we've got to take those bricks and pull them down one by one. And it's going to take time.
Time. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Anything else you would add about the topic? Any other takeaways for someone who is, struggling with a negative mindset?
I would just challenge you. Either you can be a person that says, "I cannot change," and
Mm.
have a fixed mindset, a mindset that says that all I know is all I'll ever know,
Mm.
and all I am is all I'll ever be. Or you can be the kind of person who has a growth mindset that says, I can continue learning, I can put forth the effort, I can get the training, I can get the expertise, I can go where I need to go to get what I need to get so that I can become better, so I can become the best version of myself and to accomplish my goals in life. But those choices are yours to make.
Yeah.
I believe Henry Ford said, those who believe they can
I was
and
just going
those
to
who
say
believe
that.
they can't are both right.
Yes, yes. And you said that phrase about 6 times, I can. And that
Mhm.
is key. I can, I can, I can. There's the real action, there's the practical stuff behind it.
Yes,
But if you are singing a I can't song to yourself, it doesn't matter what practical stuff you do.
exactly.
It's the I can't that's going to come out. So
Yeah, the
for
two have
sure.
to line up.
Yeah.
The Bible says faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
So faith without the corresponding actions to accompany that faith will not produce
Yeah.
anything. So, and you'll end up worse, I think, mentally because you'll be so disappointed
Mm-hmm.
that you didn't get what you thought you should have gotten. So, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'm so excited that we were able to do this, and we've been trying to do it for a while, so I'm glad that we finally made it happen. Lori, why don't you tell people where they can reach you if they want to connect with you?
You can like and follow me on Facebook. My page is The Good Life with Lori. So you can go there. There's a ton of great things that I provide, great content that I provide that will help you. I also have a group called Create Your Best Life Today, which I go into really detail into sharing teachings that I've done in the past that can really fine tune us in certain areas to just give more added benefit and added content. And then you can also check out my website at Lori, Lori dash Stancil, Stancil.com.
Thanks again for joining us, and thanks everyone for watching.